business and innovation. EIN TV, educative, innovative, and nature-centric.
Hello, Aldo. Welcome to another interesting edition of your favorite environment-related program on TV, Environmental Resort on EIN TV. My name is Ediong Senyinen Dunobong. Well, as you may know, we've been running a series on subnational climate change policy drive in Nigeria, and so far we've done I think about 3 states. Thanks to you for staying tuned and following up with the series. We sincerely appreciate you. So we've been to Abia State, we've been to Kogi State, we've been to Niger State, and we felt we should come to Akwa Ibom today. And fairly, we've had a fantastic guest joining us today from our Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, and of course, he's a core professional, and will be sharing his thoughts with regards to climate policy drive in Akwa Ibom, and of course every other issues that may arise as a result of this conversation today. We sincerely thank everyone who has always made sure that we come on your screen every other day of the week. I want to say thank you to Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. I want to say thank you to Climate and Sustainable Development Network of Nigeria. And I want to say thank you to Pan African Climate Justice Alliance for always making sure that we have this show running. Thank you so very much to you who has always been a part of this conversation. But again, we move to the subject matter of today. We are doing our best to see that we will cut across the 36 states in Nigeria. But be it as it may, because our target is to see how we can run this and get this information out there before the Conference of Party, that's COP28, which is happening in the UAE. So if we are unable to go around the country, we would do our very best to reach out to as many states as possible. And of course, availability also is a concern here. And by availability, not myself, but of course, our guests across the state in Nigeria. So today on the show, our focus is on Akwa Ibom State. Akwa Ibom is one of the leading oil producing states in Nigeria. And you understand what that means if you are in the climate change space. You would know the environmental impact of oil exploration or exploitation, as you may call it. If you've ever visited an oil producing community, whether in anywhere in the world, but particularly in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, where these activities has been carried out in manner that are not quite eco-friendly. For instance, you get to the Ibn axis of Akwa Ibom State, you would find out that gas flaring is in a continuum, like it's running over and over again. You see the fire burning 24/7. And meanwhile, the cost of cooking gas in Nigeria is rooftop high. And by in fact, should I even use normal rooftop? I should say skyscraper rooftop high, because it's outrageous. The price of cooking gas keep increasing by the day, but you find out that these guys, they are burning these gases away instead of converting them, seeing how to contain them, to convert them to economic use. So today on the show, like I tried in making the introduction earlier, we are bringing in someone from Akwa Ibom who has got the global exposure and of course the international experience, a climate policy expert. He has been with the UNFCCC, and of course currently the director of climate science, SubjectToClimate USA. Is my very good friend, Dr. Archibong Akpan. Dr. Archibong, welcome to Environmental Resort.
Yeah, thanks. I'm saying it's of course it's really a privilege to be here, and I'm excited.
We are grateful that you could, create a time to be on the show today. We do not take it for granted, so thank you so very much. Let's get to start on a very lighter note. Has been your part of Uyo, and it's actually a beautiful experience that both of us were in Uyo, but right now we are joining this conversation from two different locations. And that was a strike experience because I understand finally the Nigeria Labour Congress was able to take a strike, carry out a strike action, having been postponing over time. So how was the experience?
Yeah, good stuff, good strike. A whole lot of things is really going on in Nigeria, and
Mm,
the economy hardship is really, putting a toll on different pressure groups and different organization. So it's something that is expected, and it's just for the government to drive good policies that will enable workers to have an enabling environment to thrive. So that is really important, and also ensuring that workers are more productive because of the global need for human resources, the global need to transform the economy, to mitigate climate change, a whole lot of you know stuff is really going on globally, and it's also expected that the Nigerian Labour Congress and also the trade unions are, they have to follow suit, and they have to meet the international standard, the International Labour Organization standard. There are a whole
mm,
lot of standards, so they have to some of those standards to ensure that their members are being taken care of,
think
their
you're
welfare are being taken care of. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, Dr. Akpan. Okay, let's get to, because I am happy that I have you on the show today because especially uh, because of your area of expertise, being a policy expert. So I would just like you to, lay some um, ground definitions, or guides, if I put it that way, to what exactly, policies are so that we could, narrow it down to exactly what we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, sure. Basically, everything runs with policy. If you don't have good policies, of course, you tend to realize that there will be a whole lot of, quagmire in different sectors. So as a policy expert, aside from being in the UNFCCC, I also guide a whole lot of people. I know I've been doing some sort of consultation from different parts of the world. People consult me, companies they consult me, and they ask questions, take advisories on best policies that could fit in with the 21st century, and also the economic reality. So it's not only in Nigeria that we are having economic hardship. There are a whole lot of countries outside it's always good. It's always good to really define a policy that will fit into what is expected. Before you do a policy, you have to do a thorough research about the policy. You need to test it out. There's something we used to call randomized control trials. You need to test it out if perhaps the policy will work. If it doesn't work out, then you need to re-strategize. So it's really important, since the fuel subsidy removal, a whole lot of issues is really going on here in Nigeria, because Nigeria is basically a rental economy. Rental economy in the sense that is a country that imports almost everything, almost
Mm,
everything, both food, everything. So it becomes very hard, you know, for a country that is being controlled by, petroleum, crude oil, and you are trying to remove the subsidy. A whole lot of other sectors will be impacted. Even the education sector, a whole lot of people will drop out of school because they can't afford transportation to go to school. A whole lot of businesses will run down because they can't buy fuel the way they're supposed to buy. So everything is being run by petroleum. So but by the time you remove a subsidy, you should try to test it out and see if that kind of initiative will work. I remember before this current dispensation, they tried to remove the first subsidy, and there was a hike in price, and almost everything got inflated. So that would have been a form of example for them to see how which one on how the steps they need to take, to really remove this fuel subsidy. Of course, removing fuel subsidy is good, but at the same point, it wasn't just at the right time. It wasn't just at the
Okay.
right time when
Okay.
when things are really
Okay.
going on and people are trying to survive. So it becomes the hardship increases, and a whole lot of people are really going down the poverty line. So it's not really a good policy for the country.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I learned something there to the rental economy, and then you're talking about fuel subsidy. I understand that as environmentalists, some people were, very excited somehow, not because of the economic hardship, but because of our carbon footprint, being that some people will have to stop driving, and then that way we would have been able to, cut on our carbon footprint. Now let's get to, talk about what is happening in our carbon with regards to, their climate change policies. Do you think there is a functional climate related policies in Akwa Ibom, and what is the role so far? Because I know you've been around. Of course, you were back in the university. You were into student activism. I remember back then the university used to call you my info. So that means you must have, known a couple of things in the system. Do you think that the legislator? Let's begin with them, because I know they are critical to policy formulation in a state. Do you think the legislators in Akwa Ibom are doing enough with regards to taking on climate eco-friendly policies in Akwa Ibom?
Well, at the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure, because I've not heard of such. At least I've worked with a couple of parliamentarians, member of parliament at the state house. So for some time now, I've not heard of such. And aside from even the climate or environmental policies, in fact, almost every other policies is just geared towards. I think they are not the policymakers are not they are not really doing um people-oriented policies. They are not really doing thorough research to look at for the kind of policy that will best fit for the government.
Mm,
Aside from, I know the current administration is talking about their rice agenda. So the governor already has a footprint, and he did his stuff. I think he did the expert consultation at the Meridian some time ago. So it makes a whole lot of sense. But I'm not really seeing the policymakers really dissecting their rights agenda. That is really a good strategy. But the
mm,
policymakers, they are not dissecting the rights agenda and breaking down into measurable and realistic um, activities that could be implemented within the state. So I've not really seen that. So I think they really need to be trained. Yes, they really need to be trained. I think they really need a whole lot of workshop. It's not. They really need to be trained. They really need to bring in experts from different fields, from the environment, from the agriculture, transport sector. Renowned experts need to train them on the best policies that they could implement. In the state, there are a lot of experts around, even at the academic and non-academic development sectors. There are a whole lot of experts in different fields with lots of experience, in international engagements and development. So they should get these experts, conduct a series of training workshops, and let them get the knowledge, because you can't give what you do not have. So if
mm.
they have, yeah, so if they have this knowledge about climate change, for instance, um, um, 2 months ago, yeah, I think 2 months ago, I had a workshop. I was invited to FEREP, or climate change action, for FEREP. So I realized that though policymakers came, most of them came around, but by the time you're talking about climate change, they were not even aware. They don't even know what climate change is. Maybe they've been hearing
I,
about
I, I, Are you
it.
saying? Are you saying? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but are you saying that they came to pay loyalty to the former first lady? or not for the climate related events?
So I think maybe probably that was what they did. The loyalty is good stuff, but in terms of being aware of climate change and the things that are really happening around, their environment, their local environment, because they are representing different constituents. So the people that are being impacted by climate change, they don't really know, you know, what is it actually going on. So I think from there, we need to train a whole lot of people. We need to train the policymakers. We need to train people from the ministries, because even people from the ministries came. We need to train them. Even Ministry of Environment, as I'm talking, ministries of environment, ministries of environment, most of them don't really know what climate change is, aside from
Hmm.
maybe the director of climate change that has a fair knowledge about climate change. Most of them have had series of consultation with them. Most of them don't really know what climate is. The thing is just like it's like just like a phrase, and they don't really know what it means. So if you don't know what something means, how will you take action? Talking about people take different actions, engagement, activism, and all of that, but they don't really know where to start because they are not aware. So
Okay.
it's not something that you should fall them, because even in the US, if you do a poll sample, you realize that even most people in the US, developed countries, are not aware of
Hmm.
climate change.
You
Climate
know,
change,
we also have climate denial, especially some persons in the
yes,
US. Now,
yes. Yes, exactly. So
oh,
it's something, climate change is just something, it's just a phenomenon that is really bridging the gap between developed countries and developing countries. Why I'm saying this is that because all of them, even people from the developed countries, they need these solutions. People from the developing
hmm,
countries also need these solutions. So by the time you now
okay.
get to in Dubai this later this year, you realize that everybody will come. You will see the United States president because of this climate change issue. You see different world leaders because of this, and you have the opportunity to meet these people one on one, and and interact with. So it's really a good thing. It's really a good stuff. So if our people in the states are aware of climate change and those preventative measures, I think it will really help a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor. Let's get to talk about the body language of the current governor, because everything rise and fall with him. I would like you to, because you've talked about the Arise agenda, and we have agriculture being forming part of the. In fact, the first letter of the Arise talks about agriculture, and then that means agriculture thrives in environment. Of course, one of the areas that contributes to climate change, and again that suffers more from the impact of climate change, happens to be agriculture. And everything revolves, or almost everything revolves around agriculture. Do you think the body language of the state executive, or the chief executive of the state, is quite friendly with regards to the environment, or perhaps climate related activities?
Yes, of course, there are a lot of opportunities in the climate space. For them, I'm not quite sure. Maybe the governor, since the governor is already exposed, I think he's aware of climate change. But getting the right people on board, I think previous administrations before him, we used to have something like steering committee, climate change steering committees. But I've not seen stuff like that. I've not seen someone really advising him.
Okay, it appears the signal has kicked our guest, Dr. Archibong Akpan. Now, once he's able to sort his internet issues, I'll bring him back on board. So we are talking about the climate change policy drive in Akwa Ibom State, and Dr. Archibong Akpan has been our guest, and of course, he's doing a fantastic job. And of course, where he was about to talk about, the body language of the chief state executive, that is Excellency Dr. Pastor Umoino. And with regards to his climate change policies, and of course his drive. Okay, Dr. Kwan, you're welcome. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, so
Okay, so you were
yeah,
trying to give
apologies
a
for that.
feed with regards to the current administration. Would you still want to go on with that?
Yeah, sure. So, like I was saying, previous administration, we used to have steering committees on climate change. But I think since the last administration, we've not had something like that. So I think the governor really needs to do. I know maybe he's aware of climate change. I'm sure, very sure, from the lineup of the Arise agenda, climate change revolves around all the
Components, yeah.
strategy, the Arise agenda strategy. So yeah, so I think the governor needs someone, probably an expert, that could advise him, because there are a lot of opportunities in the climate space. There are a lot of, for instance, now talking about agriculture, most developed countries are looking for climate smart agriculture initiatives. So write a proposal like the Akwa Ibom State is really rich in terms of agriculture. The soil is really fertile. So stuff like organic agriculture, stuff like improving crop varieties. So by the time you now do that kind of a proposal, probably to the World Bank, you realize that the fundings will definitely come. So talking about energy, even the education sector is being impacted by climate change. Rural development is being impacted by climate, industrialization, everything is being impacted by climate change. So by the time you do most of those proposals, you realize that there will be funding opportunities for the state, and that is where the state can now come in. And aside from that, when the state is able to register within the UNFCCC platform and have this carbon credit registry, this standard, they will be able to sell carbon credits, and that will be in millions of dollars of naira, or millions of dollars. So it's not something that we will just sit down one day and talk about, maybe the governor is not doing this or the governor is not doing that. But for sure, the governor needs someone or a team that could advise him on climate change, because at the moment now everything revolves around climate change. Everybody's talking about climate change, and the governor needs a team that could help him to galvanize his agenda towards climate change and bring in those funds to really implement some of those initiatives in the state. Of course, it's going to be a roadmap. Even at the Ibom Deep Sea Port, the aviation sector is going to be a roadmap if the governor has that kind of team, to really push forward those interventions for the state. It will be a double plus for him, while he's in the office.
Okay, thank you very much. I love I love the fact that you are raising advocacy. You're raising interventions while also talking about this solution. Of course, the things that are meant to be done, especially with the governor, having a team of people that can drive the agenda for him, especially with regards to climate change. I thank you sincerely for that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Environmental Resort, and I have a fantastic guest today in the house. And today we are looking at the climate change policy drive in Akwa Ibom State. Do not forget that this is a series, and we've been to Abia, we've been to Kogi, we've been to Niger State, and today we are in Akwa Ibom. And our guest today is none other than Dr. Archibong Akpan, a policy expert with UNFCCC, and of course the director of climate science, SubjectToClimate USA. And we are having a very, very beautiful conversation here. Talking about what the governor of the state needs to do, and of course the role of the legislature and every other person. And while I get back to him, I would like us to be sharing. If you have any comment, if you have any thought you would like to share on the show, please bring it on the comment section, and of course I will bring it live or to our guests and of course to our audience. If there are questions, please feel very free to ask them. Even after this show, we'll still come back to attend to your questions. Okay, so Dr. Akpan, let me get back to you because we are used to talking about the government all of the time. I would like you to let's talk about the role of the citizens and how we can help the government deliver on their responsibility, especially with regards to climate change. There is an agency of government in the state. Post this agency conversation, we'll talk about the people. That's the Waste Management Agency. Akwa Ibom State Waste Management Environmental Agency. I can't get the name properly right now, but you know the agency I'm talking about, in charge of evacuating waste, and these guys, they've been doing so much, but I got to realize that most of the major streets, most of the major roads in Akwa Ibom, in Uyo, precisely, the gutters are blocked, the drainages are blocked, and I don't know if you have anything to say with regards to this. The dry season is about to set in. What would you say to this regard?
One thing for sure, it's these the signs of climate. I would love to start this way because 20, 30 years, 35 years, 40 years ago, even 5, 10 years ago, we used to have August break. But right now, you find out that there is no August break. This is November, and the rain is still falling. So is climate change is a reality. It's not something that you say maybe a group of people is trying to you know be prominent or be renowned because of you know because of their selfish interests or whatsoever. The thing is that climate change is real. As a scientist, climate I have a PhD in climate change, so I'm telling you that climate change is real. If people are aware of the signs of climate, that what they used to see 20 years, 30 years ago, 40 years ago are no longer there. I can still remember while I was a child, I used to see how our forests were thick, the biodiversity, you used to see some sort of species, but right now you don't see those species anymore. They've migrated to other regions that favors them. So that is as a result of human activities, really impacting on the climate. So if we now realize that as I'm speaking to you now, next year that we'll be entering into, lot of fruits won't will be having less productivity, less yield. For instance, talking about mango fruits, pears, fruits like that, you'll be having less quantity of it because of you don't have Hamatan is not setting in at the right time. The dry period is not setting in at the right time. So there's still rain even during dry season. So it's the food sector, the agricultural sector will be affected. And we are even talking about high price of food, it will be affected. Then talking about waste management, in some form of behavioral change, people need to be aware of climate change first. When they are aware of climate change, then they will be aware of why waste is detrimental to the climate.
Hmm.
Waste is detrimental to the climate because it emits the most potent gases that causes climate change, which is methane. Methane is more potent than carbon dioxide. When we
Yeah.
pile up our waste, when we pile up our waste continuously on our gutters, drainage channels, on landfills, what they do is that those waste emit series of gas into the atmosphere, and those gases are called methane. And methane is very poisonous to the climate, and this will further cause climate change. So now our people need to be aware of that, the implication it has on the environment and on our health too. Yes. So we are talking about be your brother's keeper. I can still remember when I was in Ibadan doing my NYSC, when it rains heavily, you find out that people will pack their waste and throw into the runoff, and their garbage will you know end up piling in someone's compound and all of that.
Hmm.
So it's just some sort of a behavioral change. We are drinking sachet water, dispose it properly. You should try to avoid single-use plastics. Recycling is definitely the best option. Akwa Ibom State is really growing in population, so we have to change our attitude. If, for instance, now 20,000 people normally drinks Coca-Cola, the bottle Coca-Cola, the plastic Coca-Cola. And now, because the population is increasing, maybe it's about 100,000 now that is drinking bottled, plastic Coca-Cola, and most of those bottles end up in landfills, end up in the gutters. You realize even the gutters will be blocked. So now we want to advocate for citizens to change their behavior. If you want to drink plastic this Coca-Cola, probably you can change it to bottle drinks and reduce the number of plastics waste. If you can reduce the number of single plastic waste, it will make a whole lot of sense to our environment and also to our health. Because when the gutters
Mm.
are blocked, we find out that mosquito will be infesting on us, and many people will be suffering from malaria and typhoid. That is why many people, if you go to their houses now, they'll say, I'm suffering from typhoid, I'm suffering from malaria. It's as a result of blockage of your gutters, blockage of your drainage systems. So all of these things have cascading impacts on our health and to the environment. So we need to change our attitude towards waste, towards the things we consume. To consume more of organic, things that are really organic. Like take for instance, you want to eat maybe what is it called now? If you want to eat rice, or if you want to eat uh, agidi, you don't need to wrap it in a nylon. You could wrap it
Mm.
in a, stuff like that. So those indigenous techniques should really come up now. They used to call, I was in Yoruba, I used to call ofada rice. They wrap it in leaf. They don't wrap it in
Yeah.
plastic plates. So we need to cut down some of those initiatives and make what we are consuming friendly. You go to a store now, they are giving you, you buy 100 naira stuff item, they put it in a polythene bag, and you go back again, you buy 50 naira, you put it in a polythene bag,
They put it again.
carry your bag from your house and go and buy it. And you say, I don't have money, I need a new bag. Those things doesn't really make sense. So you need to change our attitude towards things. We need to change the way we package things. I learned they are now constructing bags in paper, so we could, innovate
No,
those
no, no,
kind of things, because
doctor,
those things.
hold on, please. Let me ask you this. I just wanted to add this to the conversation you're having right now. I was sharing with some friends some time ago my experiences in some other places, and that place you go to, and then you have this cultural shock that you will not see nylons anywhere. So I said to them that it's possible for us to, outrightly ban the use of nylon in Nigeria, of course, polythene bags and stuff. And there was a serious argument. People said Nigeria is more populated than those places and all of that. Don't you think that we can, and then people would see how to adjust? Because we've been talking about behavioral changes. People can adjust and then change in behavior so that we can achieve, a wholesome environment.
Yeah, sure, of course. People can change. Last 3 weeks, I was invited to the Nigerian Plastic Management in Abuja. It was a conference on reduce plastic consumption. And you are saving, your participants with plastic water bottles. So it doesn't really make sense. So I think it's a mindset thing. I've been to different conferences. For instance, in the UK, you go to a conference, they're using bottle. They are not using plastics. People can share drinks using bottles, water. You can even come with your bottles and fetch your water and drink. It doesn't really take much from people. But this living large mindset in Nigeria that, yeah, I need these plastics, they are really fanciful. They are really fanciful. So it's really nice, nice packaging, but it's not friendly to the environment, it's not friendly to the climate. So one thing for sure is how to change our mindset towards consuming, things that has plastics. So if we can change our mindset, it will make a whole lot of sense. We need to really advocate for a whole lot of, because most people are not aware of the detrimental impact of plastics on the environment. Ways. Akwa Ibom State has the largest shoreline in Nigeria. So if our plastics end up you know, infiltrating our water bodies, the ocean, you realize that the Bacardif spot that we are trying to project might not be feasible, because if you don't have those shorelines again, and shorelines are being, submerged, we won't have uh, any need for the Bacardif. So these things are very causing cascading effects to the environment, and plastic is one of those key environmental challenges here in the states.
Okay, okay, doctor. Before we, we wrap up the show today, because it's been a fantastic 35 minutes so far. But I would like you, because you said something that struck a chord in me. Talking about Akwa Ibom having the largest shoreline in Nigeria, and of course one of the few states that shares boundary with the Atlantic Ocean. I just want to take you to that axis of Akwa Ibom State, talking about the Baka area, the Esreke area, of course, the was it Sinobolo area, and these are, mostly oil producing, communities that I'm mentioning. And I think sometime last year there was a report that came out that males from this region, especially where the oil exploration activities are happening, the males from this region are unable, to perform their duties as male, not cutting of grasses though, but these complaints came from their wives. And it's a major health issues, and it could affect, generations, because I understand as Christians, one of the, commandment, or the command that God gave us was go and multiply. And when you find out that the man cannot perform his duties due to, the activities of fellow man who do not care about the environment. So how do we intervene? How do you think the state government, or the people in the climate space can intervene for the people of this region?
Yes, I think there is an issue with oil exploration and oil exploitation in those areas, because even when you tell someone, okay, exploiting or exploring oil in those areas would, you know, cause harmful impacts on your health, the soil health, the atmosphere, the environment that you are staying, even the water bodies, because sometimes the oil spills into water bodies and the waters are contaminated. So you realize that they will tell you that you are doing them bad. You don't want them to eat the oil money. So there's really a big issue there. One thing for me, for sure, is if oil is not an alternative. I've had a series of interviews, with oil exploration. Oil is not an alternative for any nation to develop. It's not. But with this our current mindset now, if you tell somebody do not explore oil, or maybe an oil company should not come and explore the oil in your, they will say, yeah, 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 you don't want them to develop. So that's the issue. This is a long-term effect that will run from generation to generation. If you can eat the money, the oil money now, but this is something that will affect your generation.
Hello, doctor, are you there? It appears signal is trying to, mess again with uh, Dr. Archibong's conversation here, and of course, he's been, trying to share his thought with regards to what is happening in the oil-producing communities in Akwa Ibom State, especially with the impact on biodiversity, and of course, especially on the people. And but it's quite unfortunate the internet has been a bit poor at its end. But as soon as it comes in, we'll see how to get his thoughts, final thought on this conversation, and so we call it a wrap. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been a fantastic, conversation today, bringing in our focus to, Akwa Ibom State, with regards to our current series on, you know, the climate policy drive of respective state in Akwa Ibom. Welcome back, Dr. Archibong. Yeah, doctor, I noticed you're back.
Yes, are you there?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead. Just wrap up your thought on that
Sorry,
subject, and then we move to something else.
sorry, please. The question again. I think my network got broken and I
Okay,
didn't
so
hear what you asked.
you were talking about the activities of oil exploration, especially in the oil community, producing communities in Akwa Ibom, especially as regards to the health of the people in that area. And then you have talked about the biodiversity that affected the biodiversity. I just wanted to wrap your thoughts with regards to the health of the people, and afterward I will just throw one or two questions and then we call it a wrap.
Okay, yeah, sure. Of course. So the health will the people from that region will be having low life expectancy. You realize that because of the gas flaring, um, water contamination by oil spills, you realize that they will tend to die younger than they are supposed to because of their health risks. Many of them will be suffering from asthma and other respiratory illnesses. So, and most of those illnesses are, uh, we don't have good hospitals that could really treat them.
Hmm.
Most times, most of those health issues are chronic, so it could last for many years. So they keep on suffering from those illness. So I think it's not really a good. All exploration is not a good solution. It's just a short term solution, but for now we need to look out for long term solutions that will benefit not just the people that are present now, but those that are coming in the future. Their lives, their career, their future is at risk if we continue to explore oil in those regions.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Akpan. We've been having a very fantastic conversation here with Dr. Archibong Akpan, a climate policy expert, and of course, the director of climate science, Subject to Climate USA. And today, in focus, we are in Akwa Ibom, and we are talking about the climate policy drives in Akwa Ibom, and of course, how we can, put things in perspective for, the sustainable development of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, being one of the leading oil producing state in Nigeria. And we had a conversation spanning across different sectors and different areas with regards to the environment and of course, climate change. I just wanted to, before I let you go, Doctor, because I intended to keep you for 30 minutes, but you've done 40 minutes plus already with us. I just wanted to share your thoughts with this in this regard. The COP, I think, is in about 2 weeks from now, starting 2 weeks from now, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if it has happened before. I hosted someone. I had a guest from Niger State the last time on the show, and he mentioned how his state governor will be leading the state delegation to the COP. And I don't know. I have never heard so much about COP in Akwa Ibom State. I don't know if people do that in their private capacity organization, but this should perhaps send their to subsequent meeting, because I want this point to mobilize young people or to mobilize people, but they can do something about it. But their presence at previous COP and of course going to this particular COP, what would you want to say about that?
This particular COP is really interesting. They're really focusing on global stock taking, so it's something that the state can do. Really mapping the carbon footprint in the state, the carbon inventory, which of these sectors really emit CO2, in the atmosphere that is really contributing to climate change. So if our state can conduct that kind of assessment, there will be a lot of opportunity. There will be a lot of grant that the state could get because of that in trying to mitigate climate change and building adaptation in the state. But for the co-op, I'm not quite sure. Everything is as a result of interest. I'm not quite sure. Most of the stakeholders I know are going on their individual capacity. Even the director of climate change in the Ministry of Environment is supposed to be sponsored by the state, but I'm not sure she'll get that kind of sponsorship. So it's something that we really need to sit down, know the right people, even the right people that are going, the right delegations that be going to COP to represent the state. But it's not just going traveling, it's all about knowing the right people that go and do the negotiations and bringing things to the state. People who are a group of experts, or people who have the diverse experts, could go there, negotiate with different parties, different world leaders, and bring in, good things to the state. So it's not going to co-op and taking pictures. Doesn't really make sense. Sorry about that. It doesn't really make sense. Knowing what to go and do there is the most important thing. Even at the federal level, that is what they normally. If you go to Nigerian Pavilion, sorry to say that, if you go to Nigerian Pavilion in COP, you realize that there's no tangible things really going on there. So we need to really sit down and get the right people to be participating in COP. Even those that have interest in the climate space could learn, so that by the time they go there, they know what to negotiate, they know what to discuss, and they know how to get things back to the states. So that's
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chibong. It's been a fantastic, moment here with you on environmental resource, and we thank you sincerely, for sparing to come on the show. Raise your intervention, whatever it is you want to say, in the next 1 minute. Raise your intervention, and of course, we call it a wrap for today. Hello, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I can hear you. Everything is fine. I would really appreciate, probably we could be doing this series maybe by monthly or thereabout, to expand the knowledge of climate change, so that it could cut across different sectors, to cut across different audiences. So I think it's really an interesting program, and I thank you for organizing it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so very much, Doctor. Thank you. We sincerely appreciate you for your time, and of course, the timeless resources you've shared with us today. And I trust our audience have learned a whole lot from you today. And we look forward to having you subsequently.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you so very much.
Take care. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we had as our guest today Dr. Archibong Akpan, of course, a policy expert with regards to climate change, and of course, the director of climate science, Subject to Science USA. We were sharing our thoughts today with regards to the climate change policy drive in Akwa Ibom, and it's been a series running to the fourth edition. We are looking forward to having this conversation across all the states in Nigeria, as our reach will be able to carry. But then we with thanks to everyone who has always been a part of this conversation, especially our guest, and of course, especially to the guest of today, Dr. Archibong Akpan. Thank you so very much for sparing your time to be on the show, and of course for sharing some very much invaluable resources with us today. And thanks to our partners, the people that always make sure that we are here on your screen all of the time, talking about Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, Climate and Sustainable Development Network of Nigeria, and of course the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Thank you so very much for always making sure that we do this. And to you, our audience, thank you for always watching. Thank you for always encouraging. You appreciate your private messages, and of course your interest to learn, and of course for always encouraging us with your presence whenever we bring this show your way. Thank you so very much, and our special thanks goes to AK Mini Jacobs today. Thank you for stopping by, and of course being a part of the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Edion Senyene Ndunobong, and that is where we will be calling it a wrap for today. Looking forward to having you next week, when we will be joining to another state. From Uyo, Nigeria.
This is EIN TV, your one-stop TV space for conversations around nature, societal issues, education, business, and innovation. EIN TV, educative, and over to you.